Z. Welcome to Joy on Paper Live, a program for writers and those who dream of writing, and for everyone who wants to know the story behind the book. And I have a very special author today, and she's going to tell us all about her story, and it's magical. And I am so happy to welcome Katy Grabel to Joy on Paper. Hi, Katy.
It's great to be here. Thank you, Patsy.
Oh, it's wonderful to see you. I'm thrilled with this book. I've been having so much fun. Now, I always love a book where, at least because I keep the books, of course, and maybe a year from now, I will be walking past it. And if I can remember the characters' names, in this case, it's really easy because Katy Grabel is such a beautiful name.
I am the character.
Yeah. And you're the character. But I'm going to remember one particular line that I love. And it is, okay. I came, I saw, I conquered. Because I'm a Latin enthusiast. And so one of the first things we learned, of course, was Veni, Vidi, Vici. And so I came, I saw, with a real saw, and conquered. Right. It's a wonderful book. It is terrific.
I'm so glad you like it. Right.
When I first got it, I looked at it and I said, what is this book about? What is this book about? And I'm so lucky I always get the books so far in advance. And this one is amazing. Your story, at one point I'm saying to myself, is this real? Or is I had to actually look, and I said, maybe she's made this all up.
No, I had really incredible parents. Yeah. And I went on a big adventure with them when I was 14. Big adventure.
We're going to talk all about that, but as I said, I have high praise for this book, but so do other people. And let's start with somebody very important in your life. And you've known him since you were little. And this is from Lance Burton. And of course, he says a fascinating account of Katy Grabel as a young girl traveling with her parents in their big illusion show. Her father, Lee Grabel, was one of the greatest magicians of all time. He was also my friend and trusted confidant. Amazing in detail and tone. I love this book. And that's from Lance Burton. Isn't that nice?
Thank you. Yes, he's great. He was, my father chose him as the successor in the royal dynasty of magic. He's a good friend of the family. Yeah, he's great.
I just love that quote. And I wanted to make sure people saw it and people saw it because he is fantastic. But you got other very high praise too, which is also very nice. So there's Lance's still, but I also wanted to show everybody that Kirkus gave it a nice, engaging, engrossing, offers a rare glimpse at an intriguing world. And I love that the Los Angeles Book Review said, fans of magic and memoirs alike will love this unique and charmingly written story, refreshing, pulls back the curtain and allows us a glimpse. It's just wonderful. And of course, Andrea Foster also gave you a great blurb. Yeah. So you've done really well in getting blurbs.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a long journey. I couldn't really publish the book for quite a few years because I had to wait till my father was gone because I revealed a lot of his tricks and illusions. So I had to wait. It was hard. It was hard waiting, but it was the best choice.
But later on, we'll talk about the celebration of his 90th birthday. I just want everyone to see this wonderful photograph of your dad. He is so handsome. Now, this was taken back in the early 50s, I think.
Yeah, that was all before I was born.
Look at that goatee. My goodness.
Yeah. He was such a showman. He couldn't resist. He couldn't stop himself.
So he had to try out that. But eventually we'll show some of his other photos. And all through the years, he grew more handsome, if anything.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. My parents were just incredible. They were fun and they were charming and they were good looking and they were just really beautiful people inside and out.
And here they are.
There they are. Yeah, that's right.
It's such a wonderful story that you have to tell about the beginning. So let's go back to the beginning of when you were born, where you were born. Were they already in the business?
No. What happened was my father had a big traveling illusion show before I was born. And then the society was changing and he had to pack it up because he couldn't book a show anymore. But it was a big traveling illusion show. They played Middle America. They had lots of illusions. And that was all after World War II. Then he had to stop, and he became a businessman. But as time went on, he was never satisfied. He was never happy. He was stuck behind a desk, and the magic show was in our garage. So then all of a sudden, Las Vegas was becoming very popular, a popular venue for magicians. And he wanted to claim his place. He wanted to be a Las Vegas headliner. He never really thought he got the notoriety and the attention and the fame that he really wanted when he had the traveling magic show. And Las Vegas was becoming really big. And so he thought, okay, I'm going to be a Las Vegas magician. And he took the magic show out of storage. He hired a crew. He got a truck. He built new illusions, and he booked a whole new tour. And he hoped that tour would be a launch pad for a casino booking. And I was really excited. I was 14 years old, and I had my own. I had a craving for grandeur like my father. So we really united on this dream to be big Las Vegas showbiz people. And he was going to be a famous magician, and I was going to be his famous magician's assistant. Now, my mother, on the other hand, was not too thrilled about this. She really liked our life in the suburbs. My father was 56. She didn't understand why he wanted to go for the big time at this time in his life. But she went along because he couldn't do the magic show without her. So that's really what the story is about, this incredible adventure that we all went on.
As a child, I was terrified of magic.
Yeah.
Magicians, because we had a neighbor boy. I was little and he was a teenager, and he would come around with a big potato sack, and he would say, "Get in it and I'll make you disappear." And I was terrified of him. I used to hide under the bed. I didn't want him to find me. So
magicians, they don't always have a good stereotype. Mainstream culture doesn't always know how to view a magician. And I think that kind of gets in the way. I don't think people know how to watch a magic show. They try and figure out how things are done. But a magic show is really an invitation. If a magician is really good at what he does, it's an invitation for the audience to feel awe and wonder. And not all magicians can do that. But my dad, I think he had some routines that he did really well. And one of his best routines was producing that big calabash pipe. It was 2 feet long, and it came out of nowhere. And it always surprised the crowd. They'd always call out and exclaim because they couldn't believe it. It would just come out of nowhere. And I think that was a really masterful move on his part. He really believed that magic was an art, and he took it very seriously. And it was his big passion in life, was being a magician and his magic show. All those images are a combination of his entire career. That was a collage that was made maybe 10 years before he died. Yeah. So there's the vanishing horse, there's the floating piano, there's the cannon. All his big illusions are in there. This is me. This is the story behind that photo. I'm wearing my father's tails, black tails. This is a typewriter I got from eBay. And I always had this image of this photo I wanted to take. And so I worked on that photo. It took a long time to get all the pieces together. And then the photo was like 30 seconds. The whole thing was over, and I had that photo. So that's me at a typewriter. And the symbol behind that photo is this. The magician's assistant, the magician's daughter, lifts herself out of the quagmire of secrecy into telling her story. And in that, she becomes the magician. And that's the message that I wanted to say in that photo.
Well, I think it's very sweet that you wore his coat. When I was young, I used to wear my father's army jacket. There was a connection. Isn't there a strange connection when you wear the jackets?
Yeah, there's something about it. There's some sort of energy that's transferred in that. And the thing is that I did a lot of research, and I just don't think there really is another book like mine written by a daughter or even a son of a professional magician and illusionist. I really looked online, and I just couldn't find anything like that. Jane Thurston was Howard Thurston's daughter. She did write something, but it wasn't like mine. It was what didn't go as deep as mine did. And I just always thought it was interesting. And that's why I really wanted to tell this story. I waited a long time to tell it, but there was a reason why. I just knew I couldn't give up on it, and I had to tell it.
when you were little, did you know he had done all of this magic before? Did he do magic at home?
No, he was really funny. He thought magic was an art, and he did not just casually do it around the house. He would say, I need a sit down audience, I need a spotlight. See, he wouldn't do it. People think, oh, he was like doing little tricks for my friends or doing little tricks around the house. It was never like that. He did not, it was an art. So he just wouldn't do it. But I knew he'd had this history as a magician, and there was a box of photos in the house. And I would just be mesmerized by all those photos. I'd sit at the box and just go through them, absolutely mesmerized by this life my parents had once had. And so I was really excited when he wanted to go back out on the road, because finally the story of the magic show could be my story too.
It's really exciting.
Yeah, and it was really exciting. I had a craving for grandeur like my father did. I wanted to be a famous rock star. That was it. And so when the opportunity came to be on stage in his magic show, it wasn't quite like singing my hit songs at the Hollywood Bowl, which I talk about in the book, but it was close. I got to be on stage, I got to dress up, and I just thought I was going to be a big star. And here I am right there with my father on a box.
You got to play dress up.
I got to play dress up. I got to wear lipstick and nylons. But at the same time, my body was changing. I was 14, and there was a point in which a lot of those costumes weren't fitting me anymore. So it was a really kind of unusual time to be coming into my womanhood, and also to be on stage and to be wearing nylons and leotards. And it was a lot, but it was also really exciting because I felt like I was entering womanhood and I was leaving girlhood. And it was fun. It was really fun.
He gets the idea one day, I want to start again. So tell us about that moment where your mother realized, oh my gosh, this is going to happen. and you're excited. So from opening, everything was in a container, right? A garage or container?
All the magic equipment was in the garage. So it was really interesting. I grew up with a different idea what magic was. Magic was all the crates in the garage. That was magic. Magic was this thing my parents had done. Magic was what claimed my father's time, his energy, his attention, everything. That's what magic was. And my mother, she was just from that tradition that she just supported her husband. And that's what she did. She didn't really want to go back out on the road. But also, it was pretty much understood that he could not do the show without her. She was the backbone of everything, even his business life. She ran the magic show from a table stage right. She did the music. She did all the props. She did the curtains. Sometimes she did the lights. And he could not have done it without her. And she was just from that generation. She was going to help and support him through it. And I know on the outside, when you look at a magic show, it can feel a little strange because the magician is transporting the women around box from box. He's shooting her from a cannon. He's sawing her in half. But the point is that backstage, she was running the whole thing. And she had a lot of power in the relationship. And plus, a lot of his hard work was to provide a home for her and to take care of her, as was common in that generation. And she was his emotional life. So she was really important.
He hadn't been doing this for a while. What's the first booking you got? The first time you were on stage?
Our first show was Fairfield. Was it Fair? Yeah, Fairfield, and right above the Bay Area. He did this. I remember rehearsing was there was so much going on. He unloaded the truck. He loaded all the equipment into this warehouse to rehearse, and there was so much time spent repairing the illusions. There wasn't a lot of time for rehearsal. So it was pretty nerve-wracking, and we had this show coming up, and there was a lot of small routines that he hadn't really had a chance to rehearse, that he hadn't done in 17 years. But we were so rushed with rehearsal, he had to just pull it all together. And I would say a lot of that patter, though, that was his career. He was doing those routines every single day for quite a few years. And I remember him being on stage, and a lot of that patter came back. And a lot of just how he did those routines all came back to him. Thank goodness, because he just had done them so much years ago. And he pulled it off. He was just one of those people who could do that. He also, he was a little rusty at times. He had a floating ball. The floating ball was right before the floating lady. And I remember the very first show, it was on a string, and he could project, he could lift up the string and project the ball out. But the problem was that the ball was making a sound on the string. It was whining on the string, and the audience could hear it. I remember being backstage absolutely horrified and the kids were like mimicking the sound. So I remember after the show, I went up to him. I'm like, maybe he doesn't know. And so I went up to him and I just said, Dad, the floating ball is making a sound. And he was like, oh, they can't hear it. Yeah. So I think what it was, I think he got on the road, he got really overwhelmed with all the things he was responsible for. And some things got put to the side. So I think that's what happened.
The funny thing is, what was his background? Where did he get this from? When did he start in the magic world?
He was a young kid, and a magician came to his school to perform. And the magician, I remember he said, the magician turned newspaper into confetti. And he was so curious, so curious. How did he do that? And he went to the library to find out, and that's how he got hooked. I had a lot of questions from my dad about, why did you want to be a magician? I went through a phase of asking him that again and again. He said, I never really got a straight answer from him. And I think it was because he didn't really know why. I think to be a magician is a calling. And I don't think the magicians even understand why. It's something inside them that they have to do. Because when you really think about how hard it is to master sleight of hand, we're talking hours and hours alone, working with cards or coins or whatever it might be. And you have to really want to do that. You have to give up your social life. You have to really take yourself out of the world and learn this thing. And so I just think it's something that was in him. And when I was a kid, people would ask me, they'd say, do you know any magic tricks? And I'd look at them like, no, I don't want to learn magic tricks. It was nothing in me. I love the fact that he was a magician, but I didn't want to learn anything. I wasn't patient enough. I didn't want to take the time. So that's how he started. And so he began at age 8, and he started, once he had a little show together, he started performing in school assemblies. And he just kept at it, and he got better and better. He left home really early when he was 16. He got his braces off, and he left. He grew up in Portland, Oregon. And then he went to LA, and he went to San Francisco, and he played clubs, social clubs. That's really where he was getting his learning. All his learning was really coming during those years. So he was 16. Then World War II happened, and he was in that. So when my mother met him, he told her, I'm a magician. But she didn't really think of him as a magician. She thought of him as a soldier who might die in the war. They were only courted a month. They got married. He was shipped off overseas. He came back whole and alive and happy, and she realized she had married a magician. She had to be on stage. She had to dress up. She never wanted to be in show business. She never wanted to be on stage. She wasn't comfortable on stage. But my mother was from the Midwest. She was practical. This is how we make a living.
But it is funny.
It's really funny. It was funny. And I have to laugh. So he built the cannon illusion, right? It was all to shoot my mother from a cannon. And he built it in her parents' garage. And so the parents were like a little horrified, like, why are you building this cannon barrel to shoot our daughter from? But in all actuality, he wasn't really shooting her out of the cannon.
Well, I hope not.
No, it wasn't. It was an illusion of flight. But still, it was funny because he was in the garage building this cannon. All the way through my childhood growing up, I hadn't seen the magic show till I was 14. He would laugh and go, "I shot your mother from a cannon." And we would all laugh and giggle. But a part of me was like, "Oh my God, did he really do that?" So it wasn't until rehearsal that I could see we were rehearsing the cannon, and I thought, oh my God, he doesn't really shoot her from a cannon. It's all a big trick. So, yeah.
No, was he still shooting her from a cannon then, or were you taking that place?
No, my mother kept that. That was her thing. Yeah. I
That
never,
was her
but
thing.
oh yeah, but I would have loved to have done that because I wanted as much of the spotlight as I could get. And I was already the floating lady. And I thought if I could be the human cannonball also, wow, wouldn't that be great? So I actually was really envious of her for being the human cannonball because I wanted to be one. I wanted to do that.
It was nice that after 17 years of not doing it, she was still in such shape she could do it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
she could still fit.
yeah,
She
she
could
could
fit
fit
in the cannon.
because a lot of
Mhm.
ladies after 17 years, they're getting in the cannon. You're not going to get them out. So,
No, no.
yeah, that's why I
Yeah.
thought perhaps you at 14, you're thin enough to get in a cannon. But so your mom was
No,
pretty great. She was beautiful too. Absolutely beautiful.
really beautiful. Really beautiful. He was really lucky to have my mom. Boy,
Oh,
we
yeah.
were all lucky to have her as our mom. She was really great.
I can see that being the organizer, because for organizing road trips is difficult enough for anything. But for when you're
Yeah.
doing a magic show and you have to organize everything, all of these bookings, that alone, that is a full-time job. So she was working like crazy.
Oh, yeah, she was. It was a lot of hard work. She had to keep track of all the contracts, keep track of what the next dates, where we were going. And there was a lot of other people in the magic show too. There was at least four other people, four other crew people to help us. And everybody has specific duties. We all had to, and this is how I described it in the book. We all had to move as one organism on stage. We all had to work as a team to make the magic show happen. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. There were mishaps, there were mistakes, and all the way through I would be like, "Oh my God, that's really bad what happened." And I would keep thinking we were going to head back home. There's that maxim that the show must go on, and it did go on. And I had to learn that when you make a mistake, when things fail, you just keep going. And that's how life is. So I learned all that.
The logistics of moving a crew is difficult.
It was one-nighters. We'd get to a town, we'd set up the show. We'd usually get to the theater, the auditorium, and start setting it up by noon. By 2 o'clock, it was set up. Then we had to wait till showtime, till 7 o'clock. The show would be over by 9. Then we had to break down the show, put it back in the truck, drive that night to the next town. Actually, what we did, we would break down the show, we would put it in the truck, we would go have breakfast, and we'd laugh, we'd have a great time at breakfast, we'd tell jokes, then we'd all get back in the vehicles, get back in the truck, get back in the cars, and travel to the next town, check into a hotel, and do the whole thing the next day. And it was a really hard schedule. And it was especially hard for my father because he also had to be on stage. He had to be alert on stage, doing these tricks and illusions and keeping track of his stuff and keep track of his props and be on for the audience. So it was particularly stressful for him. As an assistant, we could get backstage, we could relax, we could have downtime, but he was on all the time. So it was really stressful for him. And he would insist that and sleep was a big issue for him. We would get to the hotel room and he'd have to go to sleep, but he'd still be really worked up from the night and from traveling and from breakfast and from the show. And it would take him a while to unwind. He would take Valium, but he was very careful with the Valium. He would parse it up into little tiny pieces, but it would relax him enough that he could get some sleep.
In those days, of course, those were the days when there were a lot of these shows going around. It was the days of traveling carnivals. People weren't as hooked to television in those days that they'd actually go out and do things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now this is a brave thing for your father at his age to decide to go on the road, take his family on the road, and have a goal. Most people, that might be a goal when you're 20, but to have a goal of getting to Vegas and to hit the big time, most people would have called him crazy. Like,
I know. He always had great belief in life that he could just get what he wanted. And he had great confidence in himself. And it was really why I think about that. Wow, that was really inspiring that he could do that. But he just believed in himself, and he really loved magic, and he really wanted his place in the history of magic. He wanted that. And he went for it. And so what it did, I would say it made a big impression on me. I was 14. So what it did for me as an adult was that it made me realize that to pursue your biggest dreams was a really noble cause, and that nothing can ever stop you, and that it was totally okay to do that. Also, that an unconventional life was completely acceptable and okay. And he modeled that to me. He showed that to me, that an unconventional life was fine. It was good. And so that really made an impression on me. I was never a mother. I didn't marry till late in life. I moved around a lot. I would have my own big dreams that I was always pursuing, sometimes at the cost of relationships, because I just felt this is what life's about. You can do that, just like he did. So it really made a big impression on me. I wanted adventure. I wanted to see different towns, live in different towns, go different places. And that's what he taught me. That's what he showed me. He didn't want me, though, to live that life. He wanted me to have a conventional life. He wanted me to sit at a desk and make money. And that just wasn't going to happen. He didn't understand why I wasn't married, and he didn't understand why I didn't want to be a mom. But he modeled to me this entirely different way of living. That's who I became. And as an adult, our relationship was a little bit strained because of that. He couldn't understand what I was doing. And I'm like, you showed this to me. You showed me this kind of life. So.
Well, so how long from the time you opened the garage and looked at all of that? It must have been just piled up and stacked up, and all has to be moved and taken and fixed because things wear out. How long from that point, and how many shows were there before you got to Vegas?
I would say it took about 1.5 years to mobilize the magic show. The tour was 4 months. Maybe 2 years from that point of opening up the garage door and actually doing that last show at the convention center in Las Vegas. So maybe a little bit less than 2 years.
Getting to Vegas is a big deal for anybody, and getting to Vegas and being around the people that you got to meet there, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, my parents, the people in professional magic, the husband and wife teams are really interesting. And I've been around a lot of the husband and wife teams. And usually the wife is fed up. She's fed up. She doesn't want to do it anymore. It's not what she signed up for. But the husband usually, just like my dad, is so passionate about the magic show. And there's the point in which the wife just wants to stop. And so I've met a lot of jaded wife magicians. It's a team. They do it together. It's a husband and wife team on stage. They do it together. The wife makes the best out of it. And it's funny. I don't know if it's like that now. I think professional magic has really changed. And there's a lot of women magicians now. And I don't know if there's so many anymore husband and wife teams anymore. But when I was with my parents and meeting these people, there always seemed to be a certain dynamic in the magic acts, husband and wife magic acts.
And did you meet other celebrities when you were in Vegas? Who did you meet?
Okay.
Who impressed you? Because at that age, you're getting to Vegas, there are lots of period of time, there were famous people there.
When my parents met some of the big wigs in magic, it was after the magic show. I was an adult. This was when my father was part of the royal dynasty of magicians, the royal dynasty of magic. He'd gotten a lot of attention because he was now part of this big tradition in magic that covered 5 magicians, actually 4 magicians at the time, and he was one of them. So once he declared himself as part of the royal dynasty of magic, it opened doors for him, and he entered the higher echelons, if you can call it that, of professional magic. And that's when he met David Copperfield. I know you have that photo. Siegfried and Roy, he met them. That's him with David Copperfield. They were in Vegas. My father had to find a successor for the royal dynasty of magic. And that's when he met David Copperfield, and that's when he met Lance. So there was a point in his career in which he was really, it was a lot of fun. He was hobnobbing with a lot of those big wigs in professional magic, and he was going to Las Vegas a lot. And they had a really good time. And that's them with David Copperfield. There's another photo with them and Siegfried and Roy. In the royal dynasty, though, he did pick, there they are with Siegfried and Roy. In the royal dynasty, though, he picked Lance Burton as his successor. And Lance was really good to my parents. He is an excellent magician and a really good person inside. Whenever they saw his magic show, they welcomed him backstage. They welcomed them backstage. He always made them feel really welcome, really special. They had lunches and dinners together. He was really good to them.
Where did you perform in Vegas?
Sorry. So what I don't want to give away too much because
don't give away.
But what happened was we went on this 4-month tour. So the whole thing culminated with a magic show at the Las Vegas Convention Center. And the magic show was going to be sponsored by the Las Vegas Kiwanis Club. When we did that tour, that's who sponsored the show, was fraternal clubs like the Lions, the Kiwanis Club, the JCs. Those were the fraternal clubs at the time who would sponsor the magic show. So he booked a show intentionally with the Las Vegas Kiwanis Club because he wanted to do a show near the casinos. Because in the casinos were the casino talent scouts. And so that's why he booked that show there. And that's a lot of the climax of the book happens during that.
Yeah, people have to read the book because it's a sort of a mystery, exciting thing. Let's look with there you are, as I said, you were on stage, but also you had some other time with your dad. What is this?
This is Frankie. We had a vanishing horse, and that's a vanishing horse, and there I am with the vanishing horse and my father. It was an interesting routine. He actually built a really big vanishing horse illusion. It was quite an illusion. And so what happened was he spent a year building this illusion, and it had a fake horse, it had a showgirl in it, a whole big thing. What happened was during rehearsal, we're at this warehouse and we're rehearsing, and the first show's coming up, and we're rehearsing this illusion for the first time with the horse, and we realize the horse doesn't want to walk up the ramp to get inside the big platform in which it's supposed to disappear in. I think what happened, the ceiling was too low, so it really spooked the horse. And so they tried 3 times. The horse wouldn't do it. Frankie wouldn't do it. Understandably, horses are very sensitive. They're easily spooked. Understandably, Frankie didn't want to walk into that platform. And we had to scrape the whole illusion, the whole thing. It was just done. And I remember being shocked because I knew he had just worked on that endlessly for so long. And then very interesting enough, my father knew he had to come up with another vanishing horse illusion. He got out a big yellow tablet of paper. He started sketching. He started thinking. I could see he was thinking, and he designed a whole new illusion probably within 2 minutes. He had a contractual obligation to the sponsors to offer a vanishing horse illusion. He had to have one. So he designed one in about 2 minutes. He designed it. And then we just pulled it together and we did it. So
you have to have quite a intriguing mind to think of these tricks. So I think this is one of the most fascinating First of all, it looks so scary. It looks so scary. This illusion, this floating piano. Tell us about this. You didn't do the floating piano yourself.
No. What he would do is so each town, he would tell the sponsors, find someone in your town that can play the piano. Because I have a floating piano trick and they can be in the piano and play it while it goes upside down and everything. So it was up to the sponsors to come up with the pianist each town. So what it was, every magician has a signature illusion, and that was his. It was a spin. It was mahogany. He saw it in a piano store in Portland, Oregon. He got it. He painted it white. But because it was dark wood, the paint didn't totally soak in. So it actually had a pink hue. So sometimes people would get in the piano, it would rise up, it would turn. And one time it was rising up and we were on tour and the woman got really scared. She's like, you can't, I can't. She just quit playing. She quit playing. The piano started tilting. It started tilting. So she got really scared. I can't play. I can't play. He turned off the microphone and he says, keep playing. The music is what keeps it up. So, oh my gosh, so the woman, oh my gosh.
Oh no,
so he really didn't. Started playing.
Oh, he didn't. Oh, he didn't.
Banging.
He scared
banging on the key.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
He had a sense of humor.
And, yeah. And it was a big illusion. It took a lot of time to break down and set up. And it was like the signature trick. And he had to do it.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done that. I don't like to go upside down.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a major problem on stage? Anything that happened to you?
Let's see.
Were you ever cut in half? Did you do?
Oh, my father was really funny about that. He built his own illusions, and the reason why he did that was because he wanted to be original. So he didn't want to saw a lady in half because that's a pretty traditional trick. So he came up with the Great Divide, and he would saw my mother vertically. And that's what he would do. He didn't do that trick when I was in the magic show. He tried to keep things a little different. He really prided himself on his floating lady. He felt that was original. And the reason why was because he had a mannequin head. And magicians have these kind of conversations. And it's really funny. As a person from the outside, hearing magicians trying to impress each other. I had a mannequin head. I didn't use a mannequin head. That kind of thing. It's a really interesting world. So on stage, I can't remember me being involved in any, but there were definite things that happened on stage that there were mishaps on stage. There was. And what I learned is that you just keep going, and it's like life.
And you never learned any of the tricks, like taking a rabbit out of a hat or something fun like that?
I never wanted to. It just wasn't in me. Not in me.
Oh, I was hoping. I was going to try. I actually, so funny. I love tricks. So I have a scarf with me. I was going to see if I was brave enough to do my scarf trick, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Oh, I've been practicing. Ever since I got the book, actually, I've been practicing. Okay. I do like to shuffle cards, and I like the feeling of doing that. So I've been doing a little bit of card tricks, too. It's good. They say it's good for the mind.
I guess I should tell you, though, that my father did have an original card trick. It's called the one-handed card production. So when I first began writing the book, I was writing about what it takes to master sleight of hand. So I did. I actually learned his original card trick because I wanted to know what it took. And it took days to learn it, but I did learn it. And I remember I showed it to my dad. I said, "Hey, look, I can do your card trick." And he was shocked. Last thing on earth he wanted was for me to learn magic tricks. He wanted me to sit at a desk and make money. So he was really surprised. But I did learn something because I felt like if I was going to write about sleight of hand, then I needed to learn what it takes to master it.
So when you were in Vegas, did you go to watch Siegfried and Roy? Did you ever get behind the scenes with them?
No, I didn't. No, I really did. My parents did. They were, during that time, they were going to Vegas a lot because they were looking for a successor. And they hobnobbed a bit with all those people, but I wasn't always around. If I did meet them, it was really in a kind of superficial kind of way. But they did see those, they did hang out with those, with them. But I really wasn't a part of that. But I've been to a lot of magic conventions. I've been to a lot of magic shows. My dad loved magic conventions. He really did. And later on in his life, he loved to go. And he loved to go. One reason why I loved to go is because he loved the attention. He loved to go to the dealer's room, and every magic convention has a big dealer's room. And this is where people with magic stores or people with online stores, they sell their magic wares. They sell the magic tricks to magicians. And a lot of times at these conventions, there's hundreds and hundreds of magicians. So he loved to go to the dealer's room and walk around and stand in some place where people could see him and with my mother and wait for someone to see him, to notice him. And my mother and I always, I would say the first 10 minutes, my mother and I were really nervous. We didn't think there would be hundreds of people milling around and no one saying anything. And we would get really anxious. We would think, oh my gosh, this time out of all the times, no one's gonna say anything. He's gonna come here and no one's gonna ask for an autograph. No one's gonna say anything to him. And we'd have to stand there, pretend like we weren't waiting. Then finally, someone would always come up and they'd say, oh, you're Lee Grabel, aren't you? I saw your show in whatever town, and you're the reason why I became a magician. And we would end up having such a nice night. And all these people would come up and give him a lot of praise and give him a lot of attention. And we just met a lot of really nice people when we did that. And we always left feeling really good. But that was my dad's magic. He just believed in himself. He believed in life. He just believed that he could have the things he wanted. And it did, in his own way, work out for him.
It did. He had a heck of a 90th birthday party.
Yes, you saw that. You saw that newspaper art.
In his yellow suit. Tell us about that.
Yeah. There was a local magic club, and when he turned 90, they all got together. They really honored him. At the time, there was a magic club near my parents' house, and that's where they had it. Lance Burton showed up. A lot of local San Francisco magicians were there. It was really fun. I think did a little bit of a roasting of him, but it was great. And old friends were there. It was a really nice honoring, and I know he really appreciated it.
You can tell by the smile on his face at that party. He was happy, and he deserved to be, because when I talk to authors and they will say, I finally retired at 55 or 60 and I wrote this book that I was dreaming about. But so I think that's a great accomplishment. But when you're 56 years old and then decide I'm going to be in Vegas, this is like on a different level.
Yeah, that was him. And
then, of course, you finally, as you said, you waited to write the book.
I had to wait. Okay, this is what happened. I made a conscious choice, maybe 2002 or so, just to stop the book. It was hard to do. I was going to writing conferences, writing groups, and reading the book, and I was always getting a lot of attention for it. And people were really excited about the book getting published. Finally, though, but I couldn't finish it. I would try, I could not finish it. Finally, I had to admit I couldn't finish it because I just didn't want him to read it. And he did know I was working on a book, and he was pretty nervous. At first, he would tell me things, hoping I would put them in the book. I would put his story in the book. But I think he eventually figured out that I was going to write my story for the book, and I think it just made him nervous. He was very conscious of his image. Anyway, I did talk to other writers about it. One writer said, I can't believe you're going to not publish your book because your father. I can't believe it. It's your story and you have a right to tell it. And I appreciated that. I still didn't want to do it. It would have really fractured the family. And so I made a choice. So many years passed. I went back to the Bay Area to help take care of my parents. They were pretty elderly. I was visiting my dad. I was talking to the caregiver. She said he was sitting there and he was reading the newspaper. And the caregiver said, I don't think he's really reading the newspaper. I think he's going blind. So my first response was, oh, I was sad. I was like, it's hard to see your vital, incredible parents become frail as they get old. But the other part of me was, oh my gosh, he'll never read a book. He's blind. I can finish my book now. So I went back to my desk and for 8 months, I sat there and I got the bones of the story. I got the structure. I got everything. And so I did that in 8 months. And because I thought the waiting's over now. And that felt really good. And so he died 10 years ago. It took a long time to mobilize and do all the finishing touches on the book. A lot of things happened. My dad died, my mother died, my husband died. I went back to New Mexico and picked up my life. I started a new relationship. COVID happened. Just a lot of things stopped me from seeing it through. So nothing really came together till about a year ago. And that's when all the pieces came together for the book, for the web page, for the publisher, everything. And so here I am.
It is so well written. It is really, I've got it all marked up, my sort of favorite passages, quotes. There are so many things in this book. It is just beautifully written. Now that you've written this, the first book is always difficult. I hope that you have found the joy of writing, because you have a lovely style. Memoirs are not always easy to read. I love memoirs, and for me, because I'm working on a historical book, I'm always grateful to anyone who's written a memoir. I've just been reading memoirs from 1860s, and I love them. But they're not this kind of really evocative writing that you've managed to create here. I don't know, but are you working on another book?
I would like to do a sequel. A lot happened, but still have this whole thing about the Royal Dynasty of Magic and when I was older, I went around with them a lot to different magic conventions, and I talked about that and going to Hollywood and Vegas with them. And I know there's another story in that, and that's probably what I'm going to work on.
You considered writing a novel? You can get away with a lot more if you write a novel, because you have the makings of a novelist.
Oh, thank you so much.
The oldest guest on my radio program celebrated her 100th birthday with me.
Wow.
And she had just written a book about cybercrime. It's never too late, just like your dad said it wasn't too late at 56 to start heading for Vegas. You could easily write a novel that would also be a fun thing to do.
Thank you so much. I will definitely take that to heart. I will have to say there's so much more liberty with fiction. Oh my gosh.
Exactly. And when you have this talent, when you have the way with words, so along the way you took classes, you studied writing, who do you like to read?
Oh yeah, I read a lot of Mary Carr, Tobias Wolff. They all wrote some really good memoirs. Oh, I'm talking about fiction. Oh, Margaret Atwood.
That's a great start.
Yeah, Donna Tartt, all those people. That's probably where I would go to get my inspiration. Yeah.
Exactly. You're not going to be 100 for a long time, so you have a lot of books in you. And when you're as talented as you are, you really should keep writing. Don't stop, because it's lots of fun.
Thank you so much, Patsy. Thank you. It's really good to hear that. Writing is such a solitary career. It's a solitary thing. It's really good to finally come out and get attention.
Exactly. So it's not really as solitary a life as people think, because you have these opportunities to get out there, to do book signings, to do conventions, to meet people, and you have to enjoy the marketing side of publishing. The writing side is fun. The editing side can drive you crazy. But getting out there and actually having people say, I read this book, and I will always remember one line from it, at least. I came, I saw, I conquered. It put a smile on people's face, and they'll say, I want to know more about this magician. And then to discover that your father believed in himself at that age, because most men at 56, they're like giving it up. They don't have their dreams anymore. And you can't do that.
He was never like that. He just kept going.
Yeah.
I think back now, and it was compulsive. It certainly was a little compulsive. Sometimes he really made things happen. He totally
Exactly.
did.
And it was
Yeah.
better than sitting around and watching repeats on television. He accomplished
Yeah,
something
that's true.
for himself
That's true.
and for his family, something that all of you are proud of and that you
Mm-hmm.
have. And now I'm sure everybody's proud of you for writing this book and that you held it back from the goodness of your heart. That says a lot about you.
Yeah, my dad, we had our issues as when I was an adult, but I can say he was generous to me in many ways. And I
Oh,
just,
and he loved you. I
very,
have a feeling he loved you so much. You could just see it.
thank,
He loved
thank
you.
you.
So,
Thank you so much. I
so you were
appreciate that.
very lucky, I think, to have that life. So, again, you have
Thank
a
you.
website. It's just Katy Grabel. People
Mhm.
can go there. And I hope that you get out there and just
Well,
enjoy the process of meeting fans, meeting people, and gathering more ideas to write the next book.
I'm really excited to be at this part of just meeting people and talking about the book. It feels really good.
And it is. It's lots of fun. And this book is lots of fun. I
Thank you.
was afraid, actually. I'm going to tell you the truth. I was afraid when I was getting it, was it going to be depressing or something? I get so many angsty memoirs where everybody is miserable at
Yeah,
the end.
yeah,
So the fact that he did this and he believed in himself and
yeah.
that his wife, he had a loving wife who believed in him
Yes, he
too.
did.
And that's important.
Yes,
And didn't
that's
want
really
him to
good.
say, you're crazy.
I
And the
know.
lovely thing that she stayed in such good shape that you could shoot her out of a cannon.
I know still. She's just amazing.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Your mom was very special. And so are you. Katy
Thank
Grabel,
you.
thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
so
me
much.
today on
Thank
Joy
you.
on Paper Live. It's been fun to look at all your photos and to hear your story.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye now.
Okay.
Bye. It was so much fun to talk to Katy Grabel about The Magician's Daughter. It's a great book. It's lots of fun to read. So many stories. And just the world of magic turns magical with this book. Please subscribe to Joy on Paper Live so that I can bring you more interviews with fascinating authors. And meanwhile, find your own magic. Find the magic of reading, of writing, and that joy on paper. Thank you so much. Just click that button, like, comment, and share. Thank you now. Bye bye.